So I'm going to tell a little story about my grandfather. My brother and I were raised by my mother mostly, and she hated my grandfather. She thought he was a total asshole. She was kind of right about that. And growing up, though, I remember going to my first, I guess, one of the first times I met him, it was at a family reunion. He lives in Holland, by the way. My family's Dutch. And we were out there on the deck one night. He's smoking his cigarettes, and he's trying to talk to somebody about the stars in the sky. And he pulled out the Corona Borealis, which turns out to be a constellation. He was trying to explain it, that it's this diamond in the sky. And I thought, wow, this guy's really smart. Like, how could he be such an asshole? Later on, then, when I was 18, I left the house and I went and lived in Holland. and gave me a chance to get to know my grandfather a little bit better. And once again, we're at another family reunion, and this time he's telling the same story about the Corona Borealis. And this time it's a square in the sky. And it turns out he doesn't know anything about astronomy. But he was great, though. He always taught my brother and I a lot of good, dirty jokes and everything like that. And I think that's probably why my mother hated him, because he was, well, corrupting her youth. Or her young, I guess. But, yeah, then, I was in college at that point. I was in the States, and my grandfather passed away, and my brother and I had to go back to Holland for the funeral. And my brother at that time was living in southern Holland, pretty close to where my grandfather grew up. And so we went down to my grandfather's old stomping grounds to have sort of a drink in his honor, and we ended up at a shoe store. And the guy found out that we were in town for my grandfather's funeral, the owner of the shoe store, that is, and he wouldn't let us pay for the shoes. And we couldn't figure out why. He said, you're Jeff's grandkids. We were pretty amazed. We finally struck a deal with the guy. He let us pay for about half the shoe, so one shoe we got to buy. The other one was free. Then we go to the funeral, and it was a packed house. I never knew that my grandfather knew this many people, and it was really quite amazing. Just all these people came up and started telling these stories about all these beautiful things he did. And turns out, during the occupation of Holland during World War II, so my grandfather was a dentist, and he actually gave free dental care to the Nazis. So he was seen as a what's it called, a supporter of the Nazis, a collaborator. And at the same time, though, this sort of awarded him some freedom. And during the occupation, I don't know if you guys know too much about that, but the Nazis would give the Dutch like food cards that they would stamp to get their food. But because my grandfather was helping them out, they would give him all the food he needed, and they also wouldn't inflict upon him the normal search and seizures that usually would happen. So at the same time, my grandfather, who was a big supporter of the arts, had a lot of friends in the arts, and had six Jewish friends that were all playwrights and actors. And so they all lived in his basement during the whole occupation. And during that time, my grandfather actually, they wrote a whole number of plays during the war, at night and everything like that. It was actually, he was seen after the war. Everything, all this came out, and the first time the Dutch broadcasted anything on television, they got to broadcast their plays. That was actually the first broadcast of Dutch television. And he was sort of this national hero. And I'd never known any of this about my grandfather until he passed away. And it was really kind of funny, because my mother was right. He was an asshole. And I sort of learned two things from this, right? He did this amazing thing, and he did, the first thing is really that no matter what great thing you accomplish, that doesn't really give you the right to be an asshole. And number two, no matter what great thing you accomplish, you should always appreciate dirty jokes.